Passing a stopped school bus with those flashing red lights, a huge problem for one St. Lawrence County school district, where since the beginning of the school year, school leaders have counted more than a dozen instances where drivers are breaking the law. 7 News reporter Thomas Caffarella learns more about how drivers are being asked to be more careful and how easy it is becoming for them to get caught.
Watches 2 cars pass a stopped Edwards-Knox school bus with red lights flashing on County Route 24.
Those yellow buses are full of children. They're full of possibly your children, grandchildren. They're precious goods, and we care about them. We want them to arrive safely.
Since the beginning of the school year, Edwards-Knox has had 18 cases of drivers passing stopped buses. 8 happened last month. It's illegal, and transportation supervisor at Edwards-Knox, Sean DeLorme, has never seen it this bad.
It's absolutely terrifying. Anyone that takes the risk or the chance of running a bus with their yellows or red lights on, you are taking the chance of killing a student.
Along with the bus driver's description of the driver, cameras on the bus have helped law enforcement catch more than half of offenders this school year. I'll demonstrate. In a controlled environment with no students, I drove by a stopped school bus with its lights on. Front cameras caught a side profile of me, while side cameras caught the back of my car, even my license plate. Enough info to get myself a court date. Penalties include fines up to $1,000, points on your license, and in some cases, jail.
I hope that the public realizes that this is becoming a serious issue and that please pay attention while you're driving.
Buses run at the same time mornings and afternoons. If drivers find themselves late because of a bus, school leaders advise leaving home earlier to not be behind them. Thomas Caffarella, 7 News.